Imagine this. You wake up one morning not knowing where you are. You look in the mirror, but you don't recognize the reflection. You're surrounded by faces you love, but never met. You sit down to eat your breakfast, only to find out it's already been eaten. You look for glasses that have already been found. Every experience is a first, and it will continue to be, until slowly but surely you recede further into the fog of your own mind, until everything is nothing, and nothing is everything. This experience is what many have come to know as dementia. Released between 2016 and 2019, the 6.5 hours worth of albums known as Everywhere at the End of Time is a musical portrayal of what it's like to live with the condition of dementia. Over the course of 6 stages, the listener undergoes a musical experience unlike any other, one of tragedy, loss, and terror. They get to feel what it's like to forget, to remember, and forget again. For every passing stage, the music becomes more distorted, unrecognizable. Towards the end, in the final stages of decline, when the music is now a scramble of static and ambiance, there are points where familiarity is found in the forgotten. Each stage is paired with album covers, with each cover becoming more abstract than the last, a representation of mental deterioration. The first is clearly a book, while the second cover is a more abstract take on a flower pot. But by the third stage, one must make assumptions on what they're looking at. Like those with dementia, we get the visual experience of recognizing something while struggling to classify it. This could be a plant. That could be a girl. It's on the tip of your tongue, but you'll never know. The creator of this experience is James Leland Kirby, a British musician who went under the alias of The Caretaker. Not only was it a moniker, but it was also the name of a project where Kirby sampled vinyl records from the 20s and 30s. Eventually, the project changed course, with Kirby implementing themes of memory loss, which eventually led to a focus on dementia and Alzheimer's. This led to the creation of his 2011 album, An Empty Bliss Beyond This World, which would be followed up by Everywhere at the End of Time, with the intent to further expand on themes of memory loss. This would be the final album, in which he would canonically put an end to the Caretaker name. It would be a final send-off by diagnosing the pseudo-name with dementia, which would ultimately lead to its death. This had led to some confusion, with many believing that Kirby himself was diagnosed with dementia, but this is false. Kirby has clarified that only the character has dementia, not him. Kirby is a master of depicting the tragic experience through sound. According to him, stage 1 is the first signs of memory loss. This stage is most like a beautiful daydream, the glory of old age and recollection, the last of the great days. The music in this stage is primarily bright and joyful. It represents the reminiscing of fond memories, memories of loved ones, marvelous experiences, life as a whole. But the first thing one comes to notice when listening to this album is the grainy quality of the audio. Static hinders the sweet sounds of the instruments, and though you can hear them play, they're not as enjoyable as they should be. Like the music, the memories are there, but they too are losing their clarity. He describes stage 2 as the self-realization and awareness that something is wrong, with a refusal to accept that. More effort is made to remember, so the memories can be more long-form, with a little more deterioration in quality. The overall personal mood is generally lower than the first stage, and at a point before confusion starts settling in. One thing I noticed when listening to this stage, it was more somber than the previous one. To me, this is a reflection of the awareness Kirby mentions. As he says, you are now coming to the realization that something is terribly wrong. I hear self-denial. I hear an internal struggle. A true refusal to accept that your life is heading towards its worst decline. And all of this is going on while the audio quality continues to deteriorate, further symbolizing your worsening condition. Kirby elaborates that Stage 3 presents the last of coherent memories before confusion fully rolls in and the gray mist forms and fades away. Finest moments have been remembered. The musical flow in places is more confused and tangled. As we progress, some singular memories become more disturbed, isolated, broken, and distant. These are the last embers of awareness before we enter the post-awareness stages. As a listener, you know that these are the final moments before a living death. The person you've become is fading away while your tangible self remains. Tracks like Hidden Sea Buried Deep emphasize this final decline. The music starts and starts over again. It's as if someone was desperately trying to remember something. Like retracing your steps to find what was lost, you start at the beginning and try again. There's tragedy in the futility of trying to remember. Then there are tracks like To the Minimal Great Hidden. This track is an eerie foreshadowing of what awaits you in the next stages. For a moment you lose yourself. There's no rhythm, no melody, it's all a blur. Until finally you pull yourself out of it and remember again. Sublime beyond loss. This track is nothing more than a scratched record. It wants to play so badly, but it can't. It tries and tries again, but its music is distorted. Its sounds are warped. Like a fading memory, there are bits and pieces, but it's no longer whole. During this stage, you may recognize familiar tracks from previous stages. Tracks like It's Just a Burning Memory, the first tune we heard in Stage 1. Like a reoccurring memory, it comes and goes, sounding slightly different for every reoccurrence. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's worse. But it too is fading away. The best way to describe this stage is like a final struggle before defeat. You fight the decline. You try to hold on to whatever's left for as long as you can, but it's inevitable. You go in and out of the void until finally you remain in the fog. You've transitioned into the living death. Stage 4 is described as the stage where serenity and the ability to recall singular memories gives way to confusions and horror. It's the beginning of an eventual process where all memories begin to become more fluid through entanglements, repetition, and rupture. The terror begins to set in. The music sounds more like something out of a horror soundtrack. There's no rhythm, just jumbled noise. Every once in a while, bits and pieces of other soundtracks are merged into one terrifying, confusing piece. Memories are no longer memories. They are a random assortment of thoughts with no significance or meaning. They exist, but they serve no purpose. Stage 5 is described as confusions and horror. More extreme entanglements, repetition, and rupture can give way to calmer moments. The unfamiliar may sound and feel familiar. Time is often spent only in the moment, leading to isolation. In the 6th and final stage, the entanglements have ceased. Now they're nothing. The remaining fragments of music representing your memories have completely faded away. In their place are unsettling waves of static and surreal ambiance. This is concluded with one last distinguishable piece of music, a choir, followed by a minute of silence symbolizing the death of the caretaker. Everywhere at the End of Time is a unique piece of work, one of which I recommend you listen to in its entirety. By listening to it in one sitting, in my opinion, it's the best way to understand this experience. Well, that's it for today's video. Don't forget to leave a like. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, consider subscribing and clicking the bell icon for future videos. Thank you for watching. This has been Jonathan from Imagine This.